Hey guys, welcome back here to Advanced Bass Fishing. Appreciate you guys swinging by the channel and hanging with me a little bit. And guys, today we're going to be giving you all a refresher course on the Megabass Magdraft in preparation for early spring fishing with it. The Magdraft is a really good bait anytime the water temperature is over 55 degrees all through the year, except for the winter time. But there are some tricks and tips I want to pass to you guys for early in the season, like we're coming up on it, when that water temperature is under 60 degrees. That's what I want to talk about today. Pre-spawn fishing with the big Magdraft here, a little bit cooler water. It's a great way to catch a big fish, and I'm going to share with you guys some things that's really worked for me in the past with the Magdraft. And also guys, I'll put my Megabass Magdraft link in the description of the video. If you guys would like to order some Magdrafts, they got a bunch of different sizes and colors. If you use that link of mine in the Tackle Warehouse description, good way to help the channel out, good way to get you some bait, so really appreciate that. Okay, arguably guys, this is probably the most famous swim bait in fishing today, the Megabass Magdraft. All the pros use it, even if they say they don't. The reason is because it catches the fire out of them, catches a ton of fish. And let me describe a little bit about it if you're not familiar with it, then I'll talk about some tips on it. It's got the hook that's buried into the belly here, and you've got a magnet in the belly there. So anyway, this hook will stay, against there with the magnet, but it has a channel that you put one barb in like that. So it rides like that. So the hook is pretty much invisible. And this is what's really critical, because a swim bait is a sight bait to the fish, and the less hardware that you can show, the better. So considering the size of the bait and the hook and everything, this offers a pretty minimal view of the hardware on it. So that's a really good thing. And also guys, it hooks them really good. And this is one of the few baits I don't replace the stock hooks. The stock hooks in every Megabass Magdraft is the hook you want to use, so you don't have to worry about replacing the trebles on it. But the action on the thing that makes it unique is when the bait goes through the water, the head wobbles side to side a little bit, just sort of like that when it comes through the water. And then you got this big wagging tail. So you got a soft plastic lure that puts out a lot of vibration and moves a lot of water. The big tail moves a lot of water. The head moves water coming through there. It looks super, super realistic in the water. And that's why bass bite it so good. One of the downsides of any large swim bait or glide bait is bass look at them a lot and don't bite them. But a Megabass Magdraft is one of the few baits that they usually attack once you can get their attention to it. So that's the setup with that. Now, what I really want to talk about is where you want to fish the Magdraft and how you want to fish it during this time of the year, because it's a little bit different than any other time of the year. And sorry, I'm sort of stuffed up a little, guys. I got some allergies or something. I've been sneezing. But how you fish it and the equipment you fish it on is pretty critical. First of all, based upon the size of the Magdraft that you're fishing, I'll use a lot of different line tests and power of rods. If I'm fishing like the 4 and 5 inch models, something like that, most of the time I'm using it on 10 or 12 pound tests, Seaguar Vizx fluorocarbon, some type of a medium heavy bait cast rod. Same with the 6 inch, except sometimes I'll upsize to the 15 pound test on the 6 inch model. But the 8 and 10 inch models like this, I'm usually using it on like a flipping stick with 20 to 25 pound test Seaguar Vizx fluorocarbon line. Now, how you want to fish it this time of year is pretty critical. What I like to do is I'll make the cast out there with it and I'll let the bait fall down to the zone that I think the fish are going to be in. If I think the fish are going to be shallow, I just start reeling immediately. But say, for example, if I'm fishing it over a point where I want to get that bait down deeper, depending upon the water clarity and how deep I think the fish are, I'll cast it out there and I'll count it down. It falls about, probably a foot every 3 or 4 seconds. I'll count it down to the estimated depth range and then just begin my retrieve with it. Now, the retrieve to generate a strike on a Magdraft is pretty critical. It's what I call a slow stop and go half turn retrieve. So this is what it looks like when you're casting. You'll cast it out there. And also, guys, you always want to point your rod tip right at the bait. Don't like when you're reeling a Magdraft, don't have your rod off to the side like that. Point that rod tip right at the bait where it's coming straight at it. You just have a lot better feel with it, and the bait reacts different. It reacts better to your half turns if you're pointing it straight at it, because you don't have the slack in the line. So I'll cast it out there. I'm reeling it with a slow retrieve. You always want to use a slow retrieve. And then I'll reel it for 4 or 5 times like that. And then I'll go boom, just like that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just like that. That half turn is the #1 most critical thing to generate strikes on a Magdraft. So what you have with it is the bait will be going through the water like this, you're coming through like that, just a steady retrieve, and that half turn makes it pop like that. And then you start retrieving again, and then half turn like that. That little bitty half turn, just like that. When you have a fish, like I said, that it's going like this, and this bass is coming up behind looking at it like that, it's looking at the bait and studying it, then you do that half turn like that. For a split second, they think maybe the bait fish is getting away from them, and that's when they come up and get it. Creates a reaction strike through that half turn. So I try to make that half turn, again, about every 4 or 5 cranks of the reel, I'm doing a half turn. And one of the reasons that you want to use a slow retrieve on a Magdraft is if you retrieve it a little bit too fast, it rolls off on its side. So you want to retrieve it just fast enough to get that tail wagging. That's the perfect speed on it. And in terms of, like, say you want to get the bait to go deeper or shallower, just control your rod angle. You don't have to alter the speed of your retrieve. So let's say, for example, I'm fishing, I think the fish are really shallow. Maybe there's some shallow rocks or shallow grass, and I want the bait to stay shallow. I'll cast it out there and I'll keep my rod tip high, maybe 11 or maybe even 12 o'clock, and I'll reel it like this to keep it high. And then as I want the bait to go down, I'll lower that rod tip angle. And if I want it to go really deep, I'm lowering it all the way to the water. So that rod tip angle is going to be critical with it. And also, guys, with the strike on the Magdraft, the strike on a Magdraft can be so much fun depending upon, you know, how hard they hit it. A lot of times you'll be reeling that Magdraft like this, and this is my favorite way. You'll reel it, and they come up and they hit it so hard, they just knock slack in your line with it. And that's so fun when they hit it like that. But when you get a bass on or a strike on a Magdraft, guys, just sort of lean into them. You don't really want to set the hook too hard, but I'll be cranking like that, and I'll have one, boom, I will get it. I'll just like start reeling like that. I don't want to like set the hook hard or anything. So anyway, guys, if you haven't tried it, man, if you don't want to like get a bunch of them and don't want to spend a bunch of money, just get the 6-inch size. This is the 8-inch model here. The 6-inch size is probably the best all-around size, although last year I probably did better on the 5-inch model. The 8-inch model and the 10-inch model are for big fish bodies of water, so you'll catch bigger ones on it, but not as many bites. So anyway, guys, Tackle Warehouse link in the description to the Magdraft. Hope it helps. We'll talk later.